So I'm delighted to say that joining us once again on the We Are West Ham podcast is esteemed sports journalist, colleague, and I wouldn't go as far to say friend of mine because I don't think he likes me very much, but it is a man who is so used to covering AFC Bournemouth ahead of Saturday's visit to the Vitality in the Premier League, 3 o'clock kickoff, West Ham v Bournemouth. It's Graham Nickless. Graham, delighted to have you back on the podcast. I know you've jumped through several technological hoops in order to dial in and have a chat with me and James. We very much appreciate you're also battling man flu, I understand. So absolute heroic performance from you to be here. How are you going? Thanks for joining us.
Nice to be on the show again. Good to see you, James, as well. Will, I don't know why you think I don't like you. Of course I like you, mate. Just because you're a West Ham fan doesn't mean I can't like you. But no, I've got nothing against you at all, mate. Okay? Even if you wear silly hats.
I think that's where it come from last time. I think you took offence at my hat and drove an irreparable wedge between us. But,
is that because
Graham,
you're bald? Is that because you're bald?
Exactly. Well, yeah, I'm getting there, mate. Yeah, it just shows this little bit at the front. It makes it look like I've got a far more voluptuous head of hair than I have. But listen, Graham, look, talk to me about the Cherries. West Ham go there at 3 o'clock on Saturday. It's a nice game to kick the season off. West Ham gave them Bournemouth a bit of a humping at the end of the last campaign. On my first visit to the Vitality, it's been a bit of a weird summer for both clubs. From a Bournemouth perspective, what do you make of it all? What are the fans making of it? How are they fixed going into the new season?
Well, I think the fans are quite excited because you've got this new Bill Foley era of the American coming over, putting some money in, and I won't say there's razzmatazz around the club because I've seen nothing yet. I've been waiting to see cheerleaders, and I don't think we're going to get those. But anyway, I'm not probably so optimistic as the fans because Bournemouth haven't really made any what I would call top quality signings. They've lost one or two. What I've seen from pre-season against two games against Atalanta and Lorient doesn't impress me. They're meant to be doing this new style of pressing under their new Spanish manager Andoni Iraola, but I never witnessed that against those two games. Yes, they won one and they lost one. They're missing a cutting edge, and I do fear for them. Now, this time last year, you may remember that dear old Scott Parker was telling me that his squad was weaker than the previous year, and he kept really referring he needed new signings. Well, what that did, a big thrashing, mauling at Liverpool, he ended up losing his job pretty quickly. Now, Gary O'Neill came in and did a good job. His first, let's face it was his first main gaffer job, and he's in a Premier League team, and he did a good job to get enough points to keep them up. So I was surprised when suddenly Bournemouth sacked him. Now, I know he could be on his way to Wolves, and good luck to him. So they brought in a new manager that hasn't got the Premier League experience. And I think with the squad he's got, and with his lack of experience of the top flight, I've got some reservations. And I know I'm going on a bit, but with West Ham, if that's the case now, they've just purchased, I'm not sure if it's gone through Harry Maguire and James Ward-Prowse, and I'm also hearing they're going after Solanke, then, I look at them now, even just with Harry Maguire and James Ward-Prowse in the side, if they are in the side on Saturday, I fear for Bournemouth.
Great. Graham, that's interesting you say that because I've Bournemouth have kind of gone under the radar for me this summer. They've kind of just gone about their business quiet. Normally, you see what other clubs are doing, but looked at the list of players that Bournemouth have signed, and I've seen Justin Kluivert on there, who's very highly rated. Obviously, he's got a very famous old man as well. And that Milos Kerkez, the left back, who I think West Ham had links with at some point. He's been linked with some bigger clubs. So on paper, the transfer window looks particularly successful. So are these players just sort of not not showing it so far in the summer, or is it, or are they just not as good as we all thought they were?
James, that's valid comment, what you're saying there. Now, Milos is, in his performances so far, is coming over as a very strong, versatile fullback. And I think he could be a great addition to the squad. Justin Kluivert might have a famous dad, but you've got to play. You've got to be a top quality player to live up to that name. And from what I've seen of him so far, especially against Atalanta, he showed nothing. He was out on the wing, never beat a man, didn't really put a crossover, really never showed anything. And I just thought to myself, and I know I'm an old moaner and I've seen it all before, but I just felt it's yet another small winger type player they brought in. And they've got a midfield full of small little players. I mean, Cook is a good little player. Chris is a good little player, but they don't score goals. So, they're all relying on Solanke. He didn't get, 6 league goals last season? And then they've hardly played more. So Kluivert doesn't impress me yet. I might be wrong. I hope I am, but I'm not quite sure. Now, let's face it. I'm just looking at my facts here. As I said, he was loaned out to Roma, loaned him out to Leipzig, Nice, Valencia, and he scored 13 goals in 72 appearances. Well, that doesn't fill me with dread. That doesn't fill me with hope that you brought a goal scoring. And they need a goal scorer. They need a goal scorer. If you're going to play Kiefer Moore up front, put the ball on his nod. Put the ball on his head. They did it once against Lorient at the weekend, and he scored a cracking far post header. So it's really how they're going to play this. They've got some nice little footballers there, but I don't think they've got enough penetration. And if you're going to play more, put the ball on his head. So you're right. Kluivert might come good. He might have been highly rated abroad. Well, this manager's highly rated abroad, but let's just see what he can do in the Premier League first.
Yeah, lots of people are highly rated abroad, aren't they, Graham? It's not always as straightforward as that. But look, before we get into the game and what you think of Bournemouth's hopes this season, talk to me about this Solanke thing then, because James tweeted about that yesterday. Funnily enough, we know that you're very close to Bournemouth, and any information that you get out of that club is normally spot on. So talk to us, what do you know about the deal and sort of how close is it or isn't it? Is it likely to happen? And you mentioned the stats there. That certainly isn't one that fills me with sort of hope and excitement. Is it a good deal for West Ham? Could they get a bit more out of him? Or is it one of those where it's just like, just an average player moving to another Premier League team and who isn't going to have any impact?
Well, I'm not his greatest fan. Yes, he scored 30 goals in League and Cup in the Championship, but it ain't the Premier League. And last year, I said before last season started, I said Bournemouth would be lucky to get 10 goals out of him. Well, I think they got 6 league goals, 7 with a cup, and that's not good enough. That's not a top quality Premier League striker. Now, if he's got different players around him, he may well come good in the Premier League, and you may well find. But I would be surprised if West Ham went for him, unless they feel that. I mean, he's a hard-working guy. Don't get me wrong. The managers love him because he works hard for the team. But the trouble is, he has to, because he's probably the only guy up front that they've got to give the ball to in most cases. And he's not really being supported by his midfielders. Yes, they put the balls through to him, but if he's not scoring, they're not scoring. So therefore, the onus is on him a lot. And he does work hard. I've got to give him that. But whether he's a goal scorer, I mean, I don't know what sort of fee they will pay. I don't know what they've got left out of the 105 million from Ricey now. Well,
about 105 million.
Yeah, he's spent it yet.
About 105 million of it left. Yeah.
So Maguire and Ward-Prowse, that'll be 60 million if they come on board. That's what they're saying, I think. Alvarez, did that go through?
Yeah.
27, I think that one is. Yeah.
That one's done. So, well, maybe it would be a good squad player for you, and maybe he could get goals for you. I'm not totally convinced that he's a marquee signing for you for West Ham, and I might be doing him an injustice, but I've watched him in the Premier League, and he's probably too much.
What can you tell us about how close the deal is, and do you expect it to happen,
Well,
or is it just one of those inquiries at this stage?
Well, Will, because I've got my finger on the pulse down here, I didn't even know that West Ham were back in for Solanke until I saw it on a website recently. I've hardly seen it in the papers down here. We hardly get any news out of the club or whatever. We've had 2 pre-season friendlies. That's the only time I've seen them. I've had a couple of press conferences, and there's very little news coming out here. It may not be as big down here as it is up in West Ham, from what I've heard. I don't think they can afford to let him go because they've got nothing else apart from Kiefer Moore, and he was used sparingly last season. So I don't think. I mean, you've got Bill Foley's money behind you, unless he's got a big signing wrapped up somewhere. They can't afford to let Solanke go.
Graham, just on that, I know we'll move on to the game in a minute, but just on Solanke, I'm surprised that Bournemouth haven't even tried to replace him this summer, because I was looking at his stats, and we'll mention that I tweeted about it yesterday. He is the epitome of a championship footballer.
Correct.
Like, genuinely, I'm looking at his record in competitions: 44 and 86 in the championship, so close to 1 in 2. In the Premier League for Bournemouth and Liverpool, 10 goals in 96 Premier League appearances. Like, he is a championship player, and so for Bournemouth to forget about the fact that West Ham are trying to sign him. I'm not even surprised West Ham are trying to sign him, or maybe trying to sign him. But the fact that Bournemouth, they want to stay in the Premier League, they want to push on, new owners, new manager, and they haven't tried to replace him. It's quite surprising, really, especially when you're bringing in so-called highly rated players elsewhere in the squad.
Yeah, trouble is highly rated. Who's saying they're highly rated?
Exactly.
I mean, this is the bit.
Not you, Graham. You're not saying.
You're saying that. No, you're right.
You're not.
You're right that in the Sun because you want to get the story in. That's why. I've got concerns. I really have. I've said for a long time. Now, I was saying a year or two, and poor journalists alongside me, from the Echo alongside me, I kept saying they need a big striker. This is when Eddie Howe was there. They need a big striker. They've got to have a plan B. So they go and get Kiefer Moore, which I thought was fabulous eventually, and he did. He did come good for them, scored very important goals for them to help them get up. But they need a renowned striker. They need a striker, and I think you're right. I think they should be in the market to get another striker. Now, Shay Adams down at Southampton has been mentioned. He knows where the goal is, and he might just be the sort of man who can fill in with 10 goals, 12 goals. I don't know for them, and I do feel that, like you say, James, they need that striker. They should be getting that striker.
Right, coming in, Graham. So obviously we've got the game on the weekend, Saturday. It's a bit of a strange one, really, isn't it? It feels like one of those games already where the team who loses it are in turmoil. Oh, it's a disaster. It's like, because Bournemouth fans will be going, we should be winning the home games, and if we're going to get points, these are the ones we need to pick up points from. West Ham will be doing the usual sort of patronising attitude towards teams on the south coast that fans deem smaller than West Ham, going, we should beat Brighton, especially Bournemouth. Sorry, we should also beat Brighton, which we never do. But it'll be that. We thrashed them away at the end of last season. It was a great performance. Me and you were both there, of course, for that game, and it does feel like the team who loses, it'll be, oh no, what's going on? Disaster already. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I mean, let's face it, Bournemouth are going to be in a lot of people's minds to go down. I don't think West Ham, maybe there's a bit of turmoil at the Hammers at the moment, which might make people feel very uneasy. But that's what West Ham fans have been doing for years. From a distance, I look at Moyes and think, well, one moment he's God and next moment he's the devil. He's okay, and then he's not okay. And he has been expressing his thoughts on getting new players in. Bournemouth down here are just going through the motions, I feel. I think everyone's sort of inspired by the fact that Foley came in. There is going to be money. There's talk of a new stadium or whatever. And I think people are thinking, wow, we're moving in the right direction. I can't quite see it. So I would, at this stage, and I haven't seen West Ham perform, you boys would let me know that, West Ham perform, but I would imagine if West Ham's got the right attitude, then they could go and get a result at Bournemouth. Bournemouth, I'm not sure how they're going to play because he's talking about throwing men forward and being high press and everything. Well, I haven't quite seen it yet. So it's a conundrum because I don't know how they're going to play. They'll probably just have one striker, Solanke, up front. I expect more will be on the bench again, and then you got 5 midfielders. It's an odd one. I can see. I have to say, and I don't think Bournemouth fans would like me to say this, but I can see it'll be a struggle from the start unless they bring in a couple of marquee signings. And West Ham, it's what team turns up. Now, if you get these 2 boys this week, they're going to be inspired, aren't they? Now, I don't know how close it is, but that'll inspire the team. That will lift the team, lift the morale. And then you could see a completely different West Ham. Excuse me.
Yeah. It's just, they're always intriguing these games at the beginning of the season, aren't they? Look, Graham, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the show again. We always appreciate your detailed insights into the Cherries. Just quickly, then, I want to score a prediction off you for the game, but I also want just a yes or no. Are Bournemouth going down?
At this stage, yes.
And a score prediction for the game Saturday.
Scoreline 2-1 West Ham.
2-1 to West Ham. I would argue, James, would you not, that that is probably not a view shared by too many West Ham fans. I'm a little bit nervous, Josie. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I've been thinking about this a lot this morning. I think, and I'm kind of everything that Graham said is going to vindicate my decision, but I'm going 3-1 West Ham. I need to stay positive because I've started this show quite negatively, to be fair, given the summer event. But I think we're going to win 3-1, but we'll probably concede first, and it'll be panic stations. Oh my God, we're going down. It's going to be terrible. But we'll bounce back because we've had a mixed bag in pre-season. Pre-season isn't really a judge of anything, to be fair. But I've got to stay confident, otherwise I'll end up bursting into tears before the season's even started.
Hey boys, are you European champions?
We were, but it doesn't feel like it anymore.
Oh, liven up, lads, liven up. You'll have me crying in a moment.
Yeah, exactly. But look, I don't know. I sort of probably go. I just think it could easily be one of them where it's like 1-1. And both sort of sets of fans go away going, ugh. And we've got some difficult games coming up. So I think it's important for both teams to win. It just feels weird talking about at this stage of the season already. But yeah, it's an odd time for West Ham, certainly at the moment. But David Moyes has got a knack of when it seems like defeat is certain, of pulling a victory out of the bag. He's done it countless times during his reign at West Ham, and I've sort of got to hope that continues. But it's these sort of games, isn't it? The success David Moyes has had at West Ham has been based on beating teams who he's been expected to beat. It's not pulling out worldly results against Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, or whatever. It's beating teams who West Ham typically should beat, or fans say that they should beat. So this is one of those games. It's a David Moyes game. We did really well at the end of last season. Played Bournemouth off the park. So fingers crossed. Yeah, I'm gonna say a 2-1 to West Ham as well. But look, Graham, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the show. Thanks so much.
Can I just leave on a very positive note? The very positive note is David Brooks. Now, he's come back after his cancer scare. He's got back in the side and he is playing well. He's getting the old David Brooks back. So, huge congratulations to him, his family, what they've gone through. I know fans around the country have supported him as well, and rightly so. But he's now starting to get little clever things going now, and it's wonderful to see. So on on what has been a little bit of a negative report on this, I'd like to leave on a very positive note. David Brooks is back.
Yeah, absolutely,
Nice.
Graham. Yeah, cheers to
Very
that. Absolute mad respect to that. It's a wonderful story that transcends football, and yeah, it's been great reading some of the comments he's had to, he's come out with since. So yeah, nice for you to leave that on a positive. It's always a positive, Graham, when you join us on the We Are West Ham
I try to.
podcast. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Keep the
Look,
faith,
Graham
lads.
Nickless.
Keep the faith, lads.
Graham Nickless there, esteemed
Cheers.
sports journalist and the man with his finger on the pulse at the Vitality Stadium.